Hare Krishna. We're reading about what is ignorance and what can be considered as knowledge. This is from Bhagavad Gita, and here it is said that in the Bhagavad Gita 13th, we are reading from the 13th chapter. So here in this shlokas, the 11th shloka we are seeing Vivikta Desha Sevitva Maratir Jana Samsadi Adhyatma Jnana Nityatvam Tattva Jnanartha Darshanam. So, humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of the objects of sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perception of the evil of the birth, death, old age, and disease, detachment, freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home, and the rest, even mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events, constant and unalloyed devotion to the Lord, aspiring to live in a solitary place, detachment from the general mass of people, accepting the importance of self realization and philosophical research for the absolute truth. All these are declared to be knowledge, and besides this, whatever there may be is ignorance. The Lord is saying this. This process of knowledge is sometimes misunderstood by less intelligent men as being the interaction of the field of activity, but actually, this is the real process of knowledge. If one accepts this process, then the possibility of approaching the absolute truth exists. This is not the interaction of the 24 elements as described before. This is actually the means to get out of the entanglements of those elements. The embodied soul is entrapped by the body, which is a casing made of 24 elements, and the process of knowledge as described here is a means to get out of it. Now, these 24 elements we have seen earlier in the third chapter of Bhagavatam, as told in the third chapter of Bhagavatam. Of all the descriptions of the process of knowledge, the most important point is described in the first line of the 11th verse. Mai chananya yogena bhaktir Avyabhicharini, the process of knowledge terminates in an devotional service to the Lord. So, if one does not approach or is not able to approach the transcendental service of the Lord, then the other 19 items are of no particular value. But if one takes to devotional service and full Krishna consciousness, the other 19 items automatically develop within him. So, as stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 5:18-12, Yasyasti Bhaktir Bhagavati Akinchana sarvair samasati sura. All the good qualities of knowledge develop in one who has attained the stage of devotional service. The principle of accepting a spiritual master as mentioned in the eighth verse is essential for one. Even for one who takes to devotional service, it is more important. Transcendental life begins when one accepts a bona fide spiritual master. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna clearly states here that this process of knowledge is the actual path. Anything speculated beyond this is nonsense. As far as the knowledge outlined here, the items may be analyzed as follows. Humility means that one should not be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. The material conception of life makes us very eager to receive honor from others, but from the point of view of man in perfect knowledge, who knows that he is not this body, on anything, honor or dishonor, pertaining to this body is useless. One should not be hankering after this material conception, deception. People are very anxious to be famous for their religion. Consequently, sometimes it is found that without understanding the principles of their religion, one enters into some group which is not actually following religious principles and then wants to advertise himself as a religious mentor. As for actual advancement in spiritual science, one should have a test to see how far he is progressing. He can judge by these items. Non-violence is generally taken to mean not killing or destroying the body, but actually, non-violence means not to put others into distress. People in general are trapped by ignorance in the material concept of life and they perpetually suffer material pains. So, unless one elevates people to spiritual knowledge, one is practicing violence. One should try his best to distribute real knowledge to the people so that they may become enlightened and leave this material entanglement. That is nonviolence. Tolerance means that one should be practiced to bear insult and dishonor from others. If one is engaged in the advancement of spiritual knowledge, there will be so many insults and much dishonor from others. This is expected because material nature is so constituted. Even a boy like Prahlad, who only 5 years old was engaged in the cultivation of spiritual knowledge, he was endangered when his father became antagonistic to his devotion. The father tried to kill him in so many ways, but Prahlad tolerated him. So there may be many impediments to making advancement in spiritual knowledge, but we should be tolerant and continue our progress with determination. Simplicity means that without diplomacy, one should be so straightforward that he can disclose the real truth even to an enemy. As for acceptance of the spiritual master, that is essential because without the instruction of a bona fide spiritual master, one cannot progress in the spiritual science. One should approach the spiritual master with all humility and offer him all services so that he'll be pleased to bestow his blessings on the disciple because a bona fide spiritual master is a representative of the Lord of Krishna. He bestows any blessings upon his, if he bestows any blessings upon his disciple, then that will make the disciple immediately advance without the disciples following the regulative principles. Or the regulative principles will be easier for one who has served the spiritual master without reservation. Cleanliness is essential for making advancement in the spiritual life. There are two kinds of cleanliness, external and internal. External means taking bath, but for internal cleanliness, one has to think of Krishna always and chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So these are all the things listed, and one should be aware of this day in the day-to-day life and not get entangled in the material obstacles. Beginning from practicing humility up to the point of realization of the supreme truth, the absolute personality of Godhead. This process is just like a staircase beginning from the ground floor and going up to the top floor. Now, on this staircase, there are so many people who have reached the first floor, the second, or the third floor. But unless one reaches up the top floor, which is the understanding of Krishna, he is at the lower stage of knowledge. If anyone wants to compete with God and at the same time make advancement in the spiritual knowledge, he will be frustrated. It is clearly stated that without humility, understanding is not truly possible. To think oneself God is most puffed up. To think oneself God is most puffed up. Although the living entity is always being kicked by the stringent laws of material nature, he still understands I'm God because of ignorance. The beginning of knowledge, therefore, amaninatva, humility. One should be humble and know that he is subordinate to the Supreme Lord. Due to rebellion against the Supreme Lord, one becomes subordinate to material nature. One must know this and be convinced of this truth. So, this is the Bhagavad Gita chapter, and so these are because this whole the concept that this world is a dukkhale shashvatam, dukkha darshanam, seeing the limitations in one life oneself. So the word janma mritti jaravyadi dukkha doshanu darshanam. Anu, the penultimate word of the compound means repetitively or again and again. Anu is prefixed to darshanam, that means seeing. So what is anudarshanam? The repeated seeing that Lord Krishna is talking about. It is seeing the limitations in life itself from birth to death. The life begins with birth, Janma, and along with Janma comes Mrityu, the inseparable mirror twin of birth. There is no birth that does not bring death. Along with it, everything that begins ends. So, what is born is to die. The old man, death always comes along with birth. While you are busy doing things, he is there patiently waiting. So, the old man, death, he always comes along with birth. All right, let him be busy, he says, but when he thinks you have played enough, he comes. Janma and Mrityu are the opposite sides of one single coin. These are old age, Jara Vyadhi, and so on. You may be still young and perhaps strong and vigorous in your middle years, but one thing you can count upon: if Mrityu sufficiently spares you, Jara will creep in. The longer you elude Mrityu, the more certainly a time will come when your hearing will grow dull, the vision will grow dim, the step will be unsteady, you may be uncomfortable while sitting, you may be uncomfortable lying down, you will have problems hearing, problems eating problem, digestion problem, thinking problem, remembering problem, sitting, standing, walking problem. What is this? It is old age, Jara, which is lurking around the corner. You may say, I'm young and healthy. There's a lot of life to enjoy before old age and death draw close to me. Young you may be, but youth is no escape from the limitations of the two others. Disease, vyadhi, and pain. Dukkha will introduce themselves to you in infancy, perhaps even birth. Besides birth, disease is something that goes with you all the time. Sometimes it shows up, sometimes not, but it is always there, a shadow in your life. So, dukkha is a lifelong companion. Dukkha means all forms of pain, physical or mental, large or small, from the bite of a mosquito to grief over loss of a loved one. Pain, like disease, cannot be avoided. Careful as you may be, pain will catch you. So, pain or troubles coming from within are adhyatmic, from the outside are the bhautic, and from heavenly source are the daivik. So we see the limitations. Thus, we see what is this adhyatmic pain, dukkha. Internal pain comprises the aches and pains, troubles of my individualized person. Adibautic external pain is made up of the problems of the world around me, the smoke in the air, the blast of my neighbor's radio, the furnace that fails on a cold day, and so on. Adidaivik is the painful result of an event over which there's no control whatsoever: a tsunami, earthquake, an erupting volcano, floods. So these are the Adidaivik. Thus, we see the limitations, dosha in life. With birth, certain limitations come as death, old age, disease, pain. You cannot escape them. Therefore, bear in mind the nature of life. It is uncertain, painful, and swiftly moving towards old age and or death. Thus, the value Janma Mrityu Jaravyadi Dukha Doshanu Darshanam that Lord Krishna teaches Arjuna is an important value. It is not negative but factual. Its purpose is to direct the attention to the need to see the life objectively, just as it is, so that you will be able to make use of the time that is available in your hands right now. Available time is precious time. Make use of it consciously. Consciously use your time for your activities and pursuits. If you make use of time consciously, you are a master, Swami of time. So this is what is being said. And so happiness, every day, if you are happy, and try to make yourself happy by some way or the other, eating this or playing around, going moving around with the friends, going on a travel trip, and you find out all the means to enjoy and gratify your senses and escape from these pains. But more, sooner or later you will end up in misery. And recognizing this, the very nature, this janma mrityu. The janma mrityu means only this pain, troubles. And so then, what is the remedy? The remedy is that you must worship the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and you have to make your the life fruitful from following the scriptures and following these regulative principles that will ensure that you are on the right path, and the mind will not run here and there pursuing the false happiness and the pleasures, or the short-lived pleasures and happiness. The happiness that is there, it is actually an illusion. So the real happiness lies in following the scriptures, following the regulative principles, living your life moderately, and understanding that this, as once the birth is there, death must be there. So what is the point in enjoying this limited, fleeting pleasures of life and becoming happy? You'll have to pay for this. It doesn't come for free. You have to pay for it. That we do not understand, and that is why. The understanding is needed, and for that you have to read the scriptures again and again. So, well, keeping this in mind, next time when you are unnecessarily expressing happiness, then you should know what is happiness. In fact, we don't even know. So it might also end up in a non the happiness that you're enjoying might end up in a violence too. And then what is the point? The fruits will be there of every karma that you perform, and then you have to incur the fruits of this. You have to go through the fruits. So what is the point in enjoying such an happiness? So that was about being happy all the time in the material world, which is not a possibility at all. The real happiness lies in following the scriptures, understanding the devotional service to the Lord, and leading a life full of satisfaction, or teaching others the importance of this path of surrender to the Lord and Guru is the real happiness, and because that ensures your eternal happiness in the eternal happiness in the eternal world, and where there is no Janma Mrityu, and hence no Jara and no Vyadhi is there. Hare Krishna.